That is the shower pipe drain. And it's overflowing the top of that joint and coming right out onto the floor.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Honey Apple Farm. This is not the episode that I expected to be bringing you today. Today, July 30th, 2025, is the 1-year anniversary of signing the papers and closing on our very first ever homestead. And yet, as you saw by the introductory footage, we're not really in a celebratory mood. If you've been on the channel for a while, you'll know that I try to be positive and I try to show both the practical and the fun sides of working on an old house like this. But I got to tell you guys, I'm not feeling great at the moment. And part of the point of this channel is to share and document all of the steps along the way, even the ones that aren't great. So we have a plumbing problem. It's a rather big plumbing problem. It's a rather expensive plumbing problem. So the plumbing problem started all the way back at the end of June.
I've come into the basement in search of a couple of boxes, and there are wet puddles. There's a wet puddle here and a wet puddle here. Goes all the way to the corner. I would very much like to know where this water has come from. When the mold is back, Peter is not going to be pleased.
So after running our hands along the pipework and running our hands along the wall and finding no obvious source of the water, we decided to wait and see how the situation would develop.
So it's 10 o'clock on July 5th. We're going to attempt to clean up the water that has been steadily growing for the last 3 weeks. What started as a little puddle over there has gone all the way to the room divider, and this little puddle here has joined it. And it's also backed up all the way back here. So earlier when we were down here, this was dripping from condensation, but this is now completely dry where it was dripping earlier, and there's no dripping to be had. Peter, because he's wonderful and amazing, has sucked up all of the standing water that was down here in the basement, and now we're gonna hope the dehumidifiers will help it dry out. From talking to people, and those of you who have old houses like this, you can probably verify it's not unusual for flagstone foundations like ours to, Art called it weeping, but basically to leak and have water kind of well up. So if it doesn't turn into a gush or a stream and it's just a slow welling, that is manageable for the foreseeable future.
So in addition to talking to our neighbors, we also called our general contractor, the one who installed the plumbing and had it pass the county inspection. And he also assured us that it was most likely a problem with groundwater kind of seeping in through the foundation, but also normal and also manageable. However, the problem kept recurring. We kept having water spots on the basement floor. And finally, I thought there's probably something to Peter's logic. Maybe it wasn't condensation on the pipes. Maybe it was a leak. And finally, 2 weeks after, we had proof.
This, friends, is the cause of our leak, our standing water. That is the shower pipe drain, and it's overflowing the top of that joint and coming right out onto the floor. Presumably most of it is going in there, or there would be a great deal more water down here. Happily, we think that's a fairly straightforward solution, as opposed to repairing the foundation, which is an expensive and not necessarily straightforward solution. So my brilliant plan to position the shop vac underneath the worst of it. Yeah, look at that. That is not even connected up there anymore. Sort of worked. But now there's water coming down from here. And there is still some water on the floor. I'm not really sure where that is coming from. It's coming off, but from where? Oh, it's this seal. This seal is leaking. And it's dripping. This whole thing needs to be redone. Or resealed, or whatever it is. all you can do is all you can do. You can't stop taking showers. So I guess we'll just have to put up with this until we can get somebody out to fix it.
Looking back on this footage now with the advantage of hindsight, we were actually feeling okay at this point in the process. Yes, we had a problem. Yes, it was not great. Yes, it was kind of disgusting to clean up, but it wasn't a problem with our very expensive to fix foundation. And the solution was straightforward. We needed to reattach the pipe to the shower and probably replace the S-curve in the piping. So Peter increased his efforts to connect with James, our general contractor, to get him to come out to repair the piping, since he's supposed to guarantee his work. And I mostly took over the duties of vacuuming up the water in the morning from the basement with our shop vac. And shout out to our friend Laura, who's loaned us the shop vac for several months now. It has been an absolute lifesaver on several different occasions, including this adventure. So things continued pretty much as they were until we scheduled James to show up on a weekend to fix the pipe work, and he didn't show up. And that's when I decided it can't be that hard to do this ourselves, and I started doing some research.
Good morning, friends. I've been doing a little bit of YouTubing on how shower drains are installed. Happily, I think the assessment that this is not difficult to do is correct. As far as I can tell, the collar is on the shower drain, and the problem is that the glue that's supposed to be for life came undone, and that is one of the sources of leak. And when I actually shoved that up in there just now, I heard water draining through the pipes. The first thing to try is probably just to go get some of that pipe cement and see if we can re-cement that into the collar up there. However, when I was down here yesterday, I think we finally figured out where to position this so that most of the water coming down that doesn't make it into the pipe ends up inside here. And very little of it was on the floor yesterday, and it's all dried up today. You can see where it was, though. The floor is stained.
So if you are a professional plumber, or have done your own plumbing, or have done your own house rehab, you were probably screaming at that last footage. And that's perfectly legitimate. So Peter took the research that I had done, and he went up to the hardware store and talked to them about what he needed. And they basically told us what the internet had not told me, which is that those pipes are not meant to reattach. If your one and done sealant or glue has come undone, that's it. You have to replace the entire pipework with a new set of pipes. So at this point, we decided to do what we probably ought to have done earlier, which is call a professional plumber. However, we had been really avoiding that because James should back his word and his work and did not. But we bit the bullet. We called the professional contractor. He's a recommendation from our HVAC guy. He's absolutely brilliant. His name is Chad Hubbard, and he came yesterday with his associate to take a look at the pipework and also give us a quote for fixing the system in future so that our house doesn't smell like sewer gas. And this is where everything went wrong.
We're down in the basement, and if you noticed that there's a pipe missing here, you'd be right. Or you might also realize that there's an entire pipe going that way that's missing. The plumber was here, and while he was here, as Peter and I were showing him the problems with the system, this entire pipe connection came apart. All of the stuff from this pipe, which is the kitchen pipe, spilled out. This smells disgusting. Absolutely disgusting, like rotting food particles, which we're going to have to come in here and clean up. I should have filmed the plumber's face for you, but frankly, I was too shocked. He looked at the system and said, how in the world did this pass inspection? Everything is angled incorrectly. None of the joints are put together in a solid way. The traps that he could see are S-traps, which are not the kind of traps that you're supposed to use. Basically, the entire plumbing system that we paid for and has been brand new as of we moved in at the end of February has to be ripped out and redone. None of this should have passed code. He could not believe we had a code inspector out here. He kept saying, oh, well, maybe they only came for the rough out and didn't come for the final approval. And we kept saying, no, we got a certificate of occupancy after the county inspector came to inspect. So the only saving grace is that because none of the plumbing is like hidden in the ceiling, everything is easily rip-aboutable, but everything's got to come out. So all the plumbing in here, the water pipes, like the hot and cold water pipes, those are fine. It's the drain pipes specifically. So everything from the kitchen drain pipe all the way down, that's all got to be ripped out. The toilet seal there is starting to leak. So previously we hadn't worried about using the toilet. Now we're worried about using the toilet because if that seal goes, that's going to be absolutely disgusting. So they're doing a quote for us. The earliest they can get back out here is 3 weeks from now because it is, of course, the height of busy season and unknown what the price tag is going to be. I asked if we should brace for 5 figures. He said, no, probably not, but he couldn't guarantee that until he was able to put fingers to keyboard and give us an accurate quote. I can't describe to you how angry I am. We paid very good money to our terrible contractor, same contractor who did almost all the work on the property, and everything that he did drainage-wise has to be ripped out and redone, and there's no recourse. The county is not going to back up. The county's going to back up their inspector. We could sue the contractor, but he doesn't have any money, and we'd be out all the upfront legal fees. So we're just going to have to pay it and figure out how to live in this house for the next 3 weeks. Now, Peter and I have some plans. I will talk about those later. I'm so mad, you guys. People tell you to expect things when you own your own house, and that's fine. But you shouldn't have to expect that a system that you paid for fails 3 months in. That shouldn't be something you have to expect.
So that brings us up to where we are today. We are waiting from the quote. We are moving ahead with figuring out how to camp in the house. Because our air conditioning is also not working and likely won't be fixed until next week, Peter is actually going to go stay with some friends for a while so that he can be in the air conditioning. He's heat sensitive. I'm going to stay here at the house with the cat. We can't use any of the drains in the house. We have running water. I just don't have a working drain. So I've been sluicing off outside. I washed my hair this morning for the first time in 2 days. And oh my gosh, you guys, it felt great. Our neighbors next door who have the wine garden have been great. I asked them yesterday, can we come over and use your restroom while you're open? And they said, yes, please go ahead. They also put me in contact with the owner of the empty house across the road. So there may be an option, hopefully, to maybe get in there and use some of their plumbing. And I also emailed our neighbor behind us who has an Airbnb unit attached to her house. I don't expect it to be available during the weekends, but maybe during the week we could go over and do dishes or something like that. So I'm waiting to hear back from both of those options. I don't even know, other than crying, which I have done a lot less of today than I did yesterday. I don't know what else to say. I'm angry and devastated and frustrated and trying to figure out where we're going to get the extra funds from. My parents have been absolutely generous and supportive. I want to say thank you to Marcia and Karen, who have been wonderfully supportive. Some of the other local friends who have been absolutely appalled at our original contractor's behavior. I should also mention that the plumber is going to call the county office. He has somebody there that he has worked with in the past and try to figure out how we passed inspection in the first place. It won't help us, but hopefully it will help future people who are inspected by the county. So that's where we are. It's not the celebratory 1 year in review video that I hoped to bring you today, but it is what it is. If you wish to help us out financially, and you by no means have to do so, that is not what this channel is for, but I know some of you have asked in the past. I will put my Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. If you feel like you want to support this process, you're welcome to do so. You absolutely do not have to. Just being able to talk about it is a really big help. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the journey. I will bring you a more happy video the next time I see you. And until then, be well. See you in my next video.